As Majesty said, sometimes words don't quite accurately convey the situation or the experience. A city is booming, is busting, is living and decaying. The paradoxes of urban life are evident throughout Detroit, from its center to surrounding suburbs. City action is enough to excite and bemuse the seekers and builders. The paths are clear for new ideas to be tested out in the world of post-industrial urban landscape. Detroit is waiting.
Detroit got to be the way it is today by being the most American place on planet Earth. Everything that makes us who we are as a people has gone further, faster here in Detroit than any place else. How we like to live, how we like to drive, the distance we want between ourselves and the people next door, the way that we want the people next door to be just like us, however we define just like us. Detroit is who all of us are collectively. It is so typical that it looks like an exception, but it's not. It's simply the most American place we have.
You know, over the course of, 30, 40 years, you see a lot of negative press about Detroit and how bad it's been, and you just see the same, Devil's Night, story over and over again. You see the city council fighting, on CNN or something like that. And some of it's true. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement in Detroit.
So what originally brought me to Detroit was the U.S. Social Forum. It was a week-long activist conference. 35,000, 40,000 activists from all over the country. Really was a phenomenal experience. I realized though during that week that I didn't get to really fully experience the city of Detroit. A lot of it was the Cobo Center, Hart Plaza, Wayne State. And I really wanted to get the opportunity to venture out more into Detroit and really fully experience the city. People here showed me a lot of love, facilitated me staying. During that first week, man, I just completely fell in love with the city.
I think that there's a unique situation that Detroit's in right now. That's just generally the unique situation that the world is going through, which is that the world is internetifying. Everybody, it's like people that don't use computers or have computers, they might not have iPhones right now, but they have phones that get smarter and smarter, so everything's going online. And media is such that, it's not just television stations and newspapers, but it's everybody can take a picture and put it on Facebook and it all gets spread around really, really quickly. And I think that bodes well for the future of Detroit, because there's so much hard work to do here to make things better for people, because there is a lot of devastation, there's a lot of tragedies just of education as well that have happened in the cities. There's a lot of tough problems to fix, but I think the good news is that any kind of interesting activity that's happening in the city and any kind of recovery or whatever you want to call it, I think is almost guaranteed to be sustainable in a lot of ways, because people are captivated by the story of Detroit from all over and they tune into it. And I think there's a general principle in the world that if people can see what you're doing, people can see that you're trying, or people see that you're in trouble and they can help in some way or support that story, they really don't want to see you fail.
That perception of Detroit, is super dangerous and a lot of crime and, just a total shithole. In the 80s and early 90s, yeah, that was true. You had the crack boom and just crime was out of control, and that's why my parents, moved out of the city. But nowadays, it's not any safer than any other big city, but it's not any more dangerous either. I would say probably the main thing with Detroit nowadays is it's kind of empty, and there's not enough people here. We need more people. But there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. The people that are here really care about Detroit and really want to see something happen here, and they want to see, cool new stuff happen. And part of that, I think, is kind of this new wave of young people moving into the city for school or whatever. So it's a lot of good stuff happening.
When you go around, I think, around the world, whether it's London or Florida or Berlin, there's three things that people know about Detroit. It's, music, cars, and dysfunction. And music has been really the only positive thing over the course of that time that's been seen as a positive aspect of Detroit. Cars have made some impact and have had some positive, views around the world. But a lot of it has just been negative, and I think a lot of it has just been, it's been unfair in a larger sense.
Yeah, people, and whenever I say I'm from Detroit, I always have to follow that up with, Detroit's got it going on. There's so much stuff to do. There's this, there's that. I always have to list, all the very cool things that are going on in Detroit right now. People definitely see it as, maybe a void, or they see, or they think about the auto industry, or they think about, Michigan's economy. It's one of the worst. I always have to follow it up with, listing, you know, all the great things going on, all the great music, all the great, you know, all the great culture, all, you know, all the people that make the city so great.
I mean, there's a lot of things to do here, contrary to what, you know, the media might say. I've never been robbed here. I've been here all my life. I've never been robbed. I've never been shot at, you know, so I just get very defensive of the city when people say things that they don't know what they're talking about, or when the media portrays us in such a negative way. When there's so many good things going on, so many good people, and I guess maybe I like to work with the downtrodden, I don't know, and just I like to make things better.
I think like another important thing is that a city isn't a stagnant place. You know, you have one perception of a city, but cities are constantly changing, they're growing, things are being built, things are falling apart. This perception of Detroit has been typically negative at times, but it's very one-sided and one point of view, and there's just this continual evolution. And if you just choose to see a city like that as opposed to something set in stone, you can kind of appreciate the life cycle of it. Like New York, Chicago, London, none of these cities were great cities to start with. They all have had like rises and declines.
You get a situation that you wouldn't ask for. You wouldn't ask to have so much that needed to be rebuilt and rewired. But once you have it, and then you have that capacity, that new capacity added to it, you have something that no one else has, which is you really have the ability to start from scratch in a lot of places and make something new. And that's just incredible. Things that get invented here, models that get invented here, whether it's the structures of organizations, community organizations, whether it's how people start filling in and doing their own work, that providing the services that a city might normally provide, whether it's different ways of doing this fundraising to get the resources to build something, whether it's doing urban agriculture and farming inside of cities. More and more of these innovations are going to start spreading to other places from Detroit, and I think that is probably one of the most fantastic signs of a turnaround you can get if Detroit becomes known for something again, rather than just being, you know, the city that got in trouble and then started sucking, and then, you know, now we don't really talk about it or see it unless it's a picture of a crappy house.